Yo, we're live. I'm streaming. How's it going, all? Welcome to my stream. Today is, how many days in are we? I think it's the 21st. It is. It's the 21st day of Inktober. Wow. After this, 10 more days. Totally manageable. This is definitely a bit of a marathon to set aside an hour of your personal time every day. It's really more like an hour and a half to 2 hours. But I'm getting there, so that feels good. That feels real good. Um, anyway, yeah. So today's prompt was uh, drain, and I think it was somebody in this very chat room last night. They were like riffing on what kind of things could have to do with drain, and someone suggested the Ninja Turtles. I love it. You're right. The Ninja Turtles live in the sewers under the drains. That was enough for me. I'm a fan of the Ninja Turtles, so I decided to just run with it, and that's what I'm doing today. Hello to a bunch of folks. Let's see, we've got J. Andrew World, Rainy Shack, TRS on Reddit, and Spider Boy. So welcome all. Thank you so much for jumping in and hanging out. That's really kind of you. I hope we either have a good conversation or discuss some techniques. But thanks so much for joining. Always appreciate it. So just, I'm using the versions of the Ninja Turtles from their, not the current show, not the current comics, the last TV show, that sort of CG one. I really like those designs. They actually looked like teenagers to me in those. And I don't know, I just really liked how they looked. So that's sort of what I am trying to accomplish here. And we'll just see how it comes out. I feel good about things, though. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm just re-blocking things out. I'm just making a few edits to my work. Okay. Now this is good. This will work. Let's see what we got here. Uh, J. Andrew World also loves Ninja Turtles. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Rainy Shack just watched my Sonic review. Whoa! Sweet Lime Juice jumping in with an early super chat. Well, I certainly thank you for that. That is really, really kind of you. That is amazing. Hello, Shirley. That's nice to see you. Balthus WW. Not sure I've seen you before, or at least had a conversation. Mandela Butterfly and Goku Gardley. Hello to everybody. I think that there's a couple others. There's a couple others that I didn't get to greet, and I'm sorry that I didn't catch everybody right away. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much everybody for joining. So today has basically been my personal Friday. I get the next 2 days off, so tomorrow's live stream will probably be earlier. Well, it will be earlier. It will probably be a lot earlier, is what I guess I'm saying. I like turtles. Good one, Seahats. Razorvid, Sigamigs, Jack Jones. Um, oh wow, Balthus says that you're a new Patreon subscriber. Thank you. I'll have some sort of a post for my subscribers tomorrow. Let's see. Uh, does anyone know how to do lucid dreams? Um, I've had luck having lucid dreams when I have like spicy food before I go to bed, or sometimes pizza, and then just sort of like letting myself daydream as I drift off into sleep. I've had good luck with that. Am I into sports at all? Yeah. I would say football's probably the one that I enjoy the most, and then baseball. Um, Sort of following it now towards the end of the season a little more closely than I honestly do during the rest of the year, and that's because I'm a fan of the Red Sox, being from Boston, and yeah, they're World Series bound, so it's a pretty exciting time. And you're a fan. Um, yeah. Can't claim to be the biggest fan of anything, I suppose, but yeah, I like sports. All right, I'm sure there's some questions here. How about them Red Sox? That's right, Sigamigs. Um, let's see. Any other questions? Sigamigs is an Astros fan. I get that. Yep. No, Sweet Lime Juice. I don't think I am familiar with Satoshi Kon. No, I don't think so. So, which turtle are we drawing? I'm drawing two. I'm going to hit Donatello and Leonardo, maybe sort of sparring at least. Um, yeah, I think I did see some of your photos, J. Andrew World, that you were at like some sort of a music party, so that looked like fun. Who's my favorite Ninja Turtle? Donatello. Anybody that's been watching this show for a little while knows that Donatello is my favorite. I've got a pretty big Donatello collection. I don't have any other turtles. I just collect every version of Donatello that I can find, and I've got most of them. Not all, but I've got most of them. I wish I'd been collecting since they came out, but just a collection interest that sort of developed organically in more recent years. And I've been having a lot of fun hunting those down and trying to stay on top of that. Anybody else out there study any martial arts, either now or in the past? I took several years of Krav Maga, and I enjoyed it. I thought that it was quite useful. Um, Eventually, I did get a little burned out on it for sort of two reasons. One, it was starting to cause me a lot of pain. It's a pretty intense thing, you know. There's a lot of sparring, um, and so that was hurting a little, and I was getting a little like, I don't feel like being like sort of achy, like I've got arthritis all the time. But then the other was honestly, I started to get frustrated because I felt like my instructor was starting to play favorites a little bit and advancing, at least me, a little more slowly than I'd like. I was starting to get a little bored of what I was learning, and I was like, if I'm paying for this and he doesn't really want to move me forward, I think I'm done for now. Sometimes I miss studying martial arts. I would definitely go back if I could find one that I liked, find an instructor in a school that I liked. But I'd be curious what other people have studied. Let's see. The only way you can tell the turtles apart in black and white is by what weapons they're holding. Yep. Yep. The original ones. These days they try to give them a little bit different body types, things like that. Like, you know, obviously the original cartoons, big big change was to add colors and belts, name initial belts. And that was a good idea. That was a really good idea. Hmm. You know, I'm sorry. I definitely got a little too quiet, a little too fast. Let me rethink this and think about what I should be discussing today. I'm sure there's something. Oh, you know what? I thought of something that I realized I guess I must just not have brought up. I certainly don't remember ever bringing it up, but I made the mistake of checking on some of the YouTube comments, and that like never really pays off because while most of them are really have better things to do with my time, but I looked, and there was one guy that was complaining about one of my videos, and he goes, "Oh yeah, if you want to talk so much, why don't you make a comic? I'm sure it'd be so much better." And I'm like, you know, hey, I haven't made a lot of comic books. You know, maybe he's got a point. And then I remembered, you know what? I haven't made a lot, but one of the comics that I've done was nominated for an Eisner. So, you know, I was an artist in an Eisner nominated comic book. I drew an 8-page story in a comic that was nominated for an Eisner. It's not like, you know, you can just phone in your part of it and like everybody else is going to carry the rest of the weight. Like, I'm like, no, you know, it's not like I'm a big name or anything. At the same time, I'm I'm doing fine for like a little guy, right? I'm doing fine for a little guy. Anyway, I'll I sort of had forgotten, and then I was like, you know what? I should hold on to that like credit a little more proudly in a way. It didn't win, but it, you know, how many people get nominated for an Eisner? Not that many. So anyway, I decided that he didn't have a very good argument. uh, yes, thank you. Sigmigs points out the one that was nominated for an Eisner, Trickster. Yep, you can find it still at like, you know, most bookstores, and I see it in comic book stores a lot of times when I look, and it's definitely on Amazon. It's always on Amazon. So anyway, it's not like it's, you know, the kind of comic that everybody will read. It's more of an educational comic, but it was good enough that it got nominated for an Eisner is my only point. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not coming from a place of complete and total ignorance. You know what I mean? I've done a lot of self-publishing, and I've worked in every single role: editor, letterer, colorist, artist, writer. You know, I've you know, just communicating with the publisher and stuff like that. So I've done every role. I'm not, you know, I'm not just giving my opinions with no context at all, but I'm not going to list my credentials every time I do a review either. The review, I think, speaks for itself, and I don't think that you have to have that background, but I do think that I'm coming from an informed place. I'm not saying that I'm great. I'm just saying I I'm coming from an informed place, in my opinion. Um, and I didn't just like try to make it and fail. Like I feel like, you know, with the amount of time that I've had, I've done a little bit of work, and it's sold well, and it's been like some of my other books won awards too, and were nominated for awards. So anyway, I feel like I'm doing fine. YouTubers are awful. Yeah, some of them can be. Some of them really can be. Hello, Rabid Chameleon. Hello, Brent. And hello to anyone else who maybe hasn't spoken up, or if I've missed your name, I apologize. I'm sincerely grateful. Anybody that wants to drop by, and especially if you have questions, that really does help the time go by. So thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone have any thoughts on the fact that Netflix has canceled both Iron Fist and Luke Cage? I'm starting to think, like, at first I was being really positive, going, you know what? I think they're going to make a Heroes for Hire TV show. And maybe they will. But at the same time, I don't think that Netflix cancels their shows very easily. And it's not fun for me to sort of have to admit, but I'm guessing that now that, like, neither show had great ratings, actually. Just because I don't think Netflix would let something go very easily for any reason, unless just wasn't doing too great. And they probably just weren't super happy with the creative direction that either of the two shows were going in. That's the way I'm leaning towards thinking anyway. I'd love to be proven wrong. I kind of like both shows quite a bit. They might take them to the Disney streaming service. They might, but I don't think that like Marvel has the ability to just completely yank them. I think that Netflix flat out canceled them, and you know, those are their shows. And they haven't announced that Daredevil or Jessica Jones is canceled. They've renewed Jessica Jones for a season 3. They've got a season 2 of Punisher coming out, and they'll very likely have a fourth season of Daredevil. So I'm starting to think that those two shows just didn't perform. That's what I'm starting to think. No, you can totally watch Daredevil 3 without having seen Defenders. The only thing you need to know about Defenders going into Daredevil Season 3 is that, well, you know what? They spell it all out in the first episode of Daredevil Season 3, so don't worry about it. They'll explain it. It's not, yeah, no, you don't have to have seen Defenders to get it. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. Just popped into my head that it is the weekend. Um, I can literally sort of forget that when I'm working all weekend. You know, when I work Saturday and Sunday, which is most Saturdays and Sundays, I can very easily forget that it's the weekend for the vast majority of people. So I hope that everybody had a good weekend, did a few things to maybe relax or get some personal projects worked on. Um, if anybody has anything interesting to discuss or ask, definitely speak up. We'd all be curious. Hello, Salvation73. Hello, Cookie Madison. Um, let's see. I hate the Punisher TV show based solely on the premise of a death of Frank's family as some sort of government conspiracy and not the result of a random crime. Well, it's sort of a mix of the two, isn't it? Like, you know, like he found out that like some people set some things in motion, but it was still criminals that actually like killed him in the shootout. It's a little muddy. It's a little muddy. Media on display. You know, with those shows canceled, they might just make a Heroes for Hire film so they can roll them into the MCU. If they were going to roll those any TV characters into the MCU, they would start with Daredevil, then Punisher, then maybe Ghost Rider, who was used in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's like, I don't think that they'd start with Power Man and Iron Fist. And definitely in the comics, Power Man is huge and could be huge in the movies. But I just don't think that they'll... I don't think they're going to do that anytime soon. What kind of music do I listen to? A mix of rock at this point. You know, I listen to... I mean, I like... rock is generic. I like some pop, actually. I'm not going to lie. Like, there are some sort of just like popular songs of the day that I enjoy. But I like alternative. I like sort of 80s and 90s hip hop a lot. And I like 80s new wave a lot. But I do try to, try new bands like pretty regularly. I'll turn on like, you know, Pandora or other streaming services and try to discover some stuff. I'm trying to think of like who I've discovered more recently. Who's somebody I've discovered more recently? I'd have to look at my like recently purchased music to sort of know for sure. Who do I like for modern artists? I like Drake. I like Young the Giant and Band of Horses. I like some Justin Timberlake sometimes. I don't know. It's a fairly eclectic mix, I suppose. As much as anybody else's. I don't know. I've got a lot of older stuff too. Like at this point, stuff that I grew up with. Didn't expect Drake. Oh man, you should have seen it. Like about this time last year. No, it could have been 2 years ago. Let me think for a second. Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago this time. My buddy Jason and I just went on a short trip together to L.A. Or we really met up together in L.A. because he lives in D.C. and I live out here in like the Seattle area. And so we met up and I found these hilarious Drake shirts they were just shirts with like tons of different pictures of Drake just like cut and pasted all over the place. The whole shirt was just covered in Drake faces. And so we wore them out in LA that evening, going to like a restaurant. Then we went to a bunch of bars, including a bunch of karaoke bars, and we sang some Drake while wearing like these Drake t-shirts. That was honestly like a lot of fun and it amused people. Oh, folks, I'm pretty sure that I included it in an episode. The episode on Osamu Tezuka and Astro Boy. We might even be wearing them in some of the shots at the end there. I have not seen the book cover of Drake hugging a moose. Sorry. Yep. Thank you. Sigamigs. Sigamigs, you are pretty plugged in to things that I've said in the past. Thank you. Yeah. The Osamu Tezuka episode. That's my friend Jason. And Jason's an editor who's worked on a bunch of different types of books. He's worked on some books with comic book writer Joshua Fialkov. He's worked on Colonial Comics, which is a more educational comic that I worked on. He was an editor, I believe, on Artists Against Police Brutality, who there's a guy in the chat named J. Andrew World. He illustrated one of those stories. So Jason Rodriguez has done a bunch of comics, and he's just a good friend. I'm letting myself, I'm just sort of allowing myself to get lost in details whenever I feel like it on this, because I don't know what to say other than I love the Ninja Turtles and I'm just having fun drawing more than like trying to get a great drawing out. So I'm sort of allowing myself to experiment a tiny bit here and there, and we'll just see how it comes out. Let's see, Maxime Tanti says, I'm 5 volumes into Invincible after seeing your video on it. Great character development. It goes in a lot of interesting directions. So when you say volumes, I guess you're not reading the original issues, because if you read the original issues of Invincible as compared to the trade paperback, you'd see that I have a lot of fan art and letters into the Invincible title in those first several years. So I have some that was kind of fun, and then yeah, I think I don't think I had any fan art in Walking Dead, but I did name the letters column for that book. So yeah, just saying that like I've got a few little things that I've done in comics here and there. Interesting question. Okay, Rosaku says, my sister bought From Hell recently, and I was wondering if you have any thoughts you can share about it. It's interesting. It's very literary. I appreciate that it's about more than just trying to say who was Jack the Ripper. It's really trying to give you a sense of Whitehall, London at that point in time, and I do think that that's pretty interesting. Um, I think that that's the best Eddie Campbell's art has ever looked. For me personally, I don't know what else to say about it. It's a really interesting book. I can't say that it's my favorite piece by Alan Moore. My favorite thing by Alan Moore is probably V for Vendetta, and there's a bunch of other things that I like by him, but that would be up there. I like his Swamp Thing run quite a bit. I like his Superman stories. I like all sorts of stuff by him. He's great. Haven't really read any Alan Moore lately that I can think of, so maybe I'm a fair weather fan. Anyway. Chris, I want to start reading Conan. Where should I start? Read the early issues by Marvel. Read just regular Conan by artist John Buscema, and I want to say that it was Roy Thomas that was writing a lot of those early issues. I could be making a mistake and forgetting something there, but that's who I remember right now. Mandela Butterfly says there's supposed to be a New Warriors TV show, right? New Warriors got put on hold for some reason or other. So big question mark as to whether that actually gets developed. Big question mark. I'll look up at the chat room in a moment. Appreciate y'all bearing with me. All right, let's see. Fonzie Lopez says, I have no confidence in Marvel at this point, even if they did reboot. I thought Post Secret Wars was going to be kind of be a reboot or at least a course correction. Uh, I wouldn't worry about things like that. Don't get too... Okay, this is my take on things. With superhero comics, never get too concerned about like the continuity and like what's happened with a character. Just if it doesn't speak to you, just wait until there's a new creative team, and you have to just like roll with it. Super Pro, yeah. Your turtles look great. Well, I mean, this is just very much 100% based on the Nickelodeon style. I just really do like that. But I don't know. It might not be my personal favorite overall. Like I would say that probably the original stuff by Laird and Eastman probably is my personal favorite interpretation of the Ninja Turtles overall. Um, and this is maybe my second favorite interpretation. But it's actually a fairly easy version. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't say that there's a hard version of the Ninja Turtles to draw. It's easier to have some freedom in how you interpret them because you're not really drawing human musculature. I mean, you're drawing elements of human musculature, but they're completely made up characters, so you can kind of do your own spin on them a lot of times. Donatello in the foreground looks almost finished. Yeah, I would say that he's getting close. Let me buffer something there. All right, maybe that'll help. All right, let's see. Coming back in. Okay, folks, you're talking about Spawn. James Gleason said the Bay Turtles were awful. Yeah, they weren't great. Fonzie says, I'm sorry, but I think the second New Turtles movie was kind of fun. Well, it was definitely a course correction, and I did enjoy the second one a lot more than the first one. They had a lot more elements that you'd want to see in a Turtles movie, like Bebop, Rocksteady, Krang, Casey Jones, etc. So, and it was about the Turtles. The first movie, honestly, if you go back, like primarily an April O'Neil movie with a lot of Ninja Turtle stuff. But you know, I think that was maybe a way of like keeping the budget under control or something. As a lot of it seemed to be about April O'Neil more than the Turtles. Yeah. Miss Marvel is good. Yeah, Miss Marvel's a Pretty good title, I agree. Did you like the 2003 Ninja Turtles? It was okay. I like. I don't think that there's a version of the Ninja Turtles that I actively hate. Uh, some of them I'm not super into, but yeah, I don't think I hate any of them. Yeah, Fonzie's talking about how in the live action two movies that they had, like Donatello had this massive, massive backpack. Oh, you're right, guy fella. The next mutation was a pretty bad live action TV show. That was pretty bad. I had started to block that out. You're right. That was pretty bad. Like the masks like barely moved. They would just like hang. It was just like that. Like that's as much as and their eyes would like sort of like wander all over the place. They always looked like they were drunk. TMNT3 Turtles in Time. Sorry, that's a bad movie, no question, but it's almost funny bad. I just don't hate the Ninja Turtles. Like, I'm disappointed sometimes, but yeah. Will I add Vanilla Ice? Yeah, why not? Let's add Vanilla Ice to the background. I think one thing I'll do tomorrow is get myself some new brush pens because these are a-dying. But I'll just make it work for today because that's what I do today. Because that's the kind of guy I am this week. I think if I can carve out a little free time for myself tomorrow, there are things I'd love to do with my days off. See, here's the thing. I've got the next 2 days off, but I already know that I'm going to have to spend a lot of time just like doing regular chores to get ready for the next several days of work. I got to do some laundry, which takes time. I got to, you know what? I got to hit the mail. I got to like start mailing out some of these gachapons and things like that that are piling up. And then I got to, what else? I got to make the next comic tropes. So I got to record. So I don't know if I'll actually get any free time sorted, but if I get some free time in the next like 2 days that I've got off from work, I'd love to either go see a movie or play a video game. That's what I would personally love to do. But it's a question. I don't know. Feels like there's just not going to be enough time to do that stuff. It's amazing how much you can take for granted a little bit of downtime until you just all of a sudden find yourself with none of it. But that's where I am right now. I just really have like next to no downtime. It's very frustrating. I definitely don't want to make a bad episode of my comic tropes show, like intentionally, like just sort of phone it in. But I worry about like the sort of growth of the channel just dying if I stop putting out like regular content, if I take a week off. I'm terrified to take a week off. I've never really been able to do that. But honestly, like if you know me, I am a bit of a workaholic by nature. I never really take vacation time. I work sick. I have a very hard time letting go. It's not healthy. It's not really a positive. It's actually a weakness. Like just that constant drive to keep working. But it is just part of who I am. TMNT versus Battletoads, right? Who was everybody's favorite? I was a Casey Jones man myself, but Raphael was pretty cool too. Yeah, for me it's what do you call it? Donatello. Take a week off, but do an AMA. Yeah, I mean I could take a week off. No one will leave you over a week. You're probably right. I mean, and I have had weeks where I've done a very small or light episode. See a Rabid Chameleon. Let's see. Care Bear is saying, would I ever do an episode about the Archie superhero comics? And I would definitely consider talking about, you know, the various superhero comics that they've made, including Archie as a superhero. Okay, C. Kim has dropped a basically $7 super chat saying, just had a thought, what are we all going to do when we aren't meeting here every night? Ooh. Well, what I've always tried to do was do one of these like as often as possible. Like I can't do it daily after October. Like this is definitely taking a lot out of me. So it's not something I could commit to year round. But I do still do live streams, and even if I said like weekly, I probably couldn't quite honor that, but I'll at least do more than one a month. I'll at least do more than that. So that's sort of an opportunity for like, you know, an AMA type style, you know, interaction, etc. So what you want? Let's see, we've got some artists here. Maybe we could all just do live drawing shows. Yeah, yeah. People are talking about all sorts of cartoon knockoffs of Ninja Turtles that there have been over the years, and there have been many comics too. You know what? Maybe that would make an interesting episode. Maybe not everybody knows about all the sort of mid to late 80s knockoff comics that the Ninja Turtles inspired, because they inspired a lot. It was crazy. Kung Fu hamsters and you know, every crazy sort of animal combination you could come up with that knew martial arts as well. Just every indie publisher was throwing something out. I don't know why they all thought such a direct knockoff would work. It's like, dudes, nobody else was doing this, and they beat everyone to the punch. Like, why are you doing such a direct knockoff? Bro. No, but bro, why are you doing it like that, bro? I think we should put up J. Andrew World to do some live streams. Hey, that's an idea. What about that, J. Andrew World? Do you ever think of doing some live streams? We all know that you draw a bit. Would you want to do that? It's a big commitment. Have I read any of the IDW TMNT ongoing? I read at least like the first maybe 50 or 60 issues, and then I just, I couldn't really afford to be picking it up regularly, so I just need to catch up, figure out like what issue I actually left off on, and I intend anyway to pick it up because I liked it. I liked it a lot. Rat King voiced by Jeffrey Combs. That was awesome. The Turtles movies are stuck in development hell now. They might do a complete... Oh, they will do a complete reboot. Don't expect any more sequels to what we've seen so far. They're definitely rebooting it. Whoa, Razor Vids. Let's see what happened here. This is a super chat, and it says, if Marvel called you to work on a title, what would you choose? Also, do you ever work with crow quills to ink? Sometimes. Sometimes. Not all the time, but I've got it handy. If Marvel called me to work on a title and I get to choose, I mean, usually they'd say like, "Hey, pitch us. We've seen what you've done, and we like how you work with teen characters." Well, nobody's doing a Speedball comic right now. Like, pitch us an idea, and you have a little time to come up. That's more typical. But what would I do if I could have my choice? Well, let's see. I'd probably want to work on something that I really love, like X-Men, Spider-Man, Captain America. Those are all ones that I really love. I'd also realistically gladly take a slightly lesser known character, anybody that isn't really currently got a title or isn't selling extremely well. I'd love to come up with an out there idea for somebody like Doctor Strange, or I don't know if Moon Knight has a book right now. I'm just saying, like, I'd go for like a lower tier character and try to come up with a cool idea for them. I think that I could do that pretty easily. Sleepwalker, yeah, well, Kirkman always wanted to do a Sleepwalker ongoing title. That never quite happened, but he seriously did want to. I don't even remember all his ideas, but he used to tell me, and he had a bunch of ideas for what he would have done with Sleepwalker. He actually liked that character, and he just thought it would be funny to like really give it his all and try to make Sleepwalker a complete hit. And at one point, Marvel was gonna like let him under their Icon series, but then they sort of backed off with what they were doing with Icon, and they only published one issue. I'm not 100% sure if I'm remembering this correctly, but I think our friend Carrie Randolph drew the issue. I think so. Hope I'm remembering that right. Who would win in a fight? Marvel's The Rhino or TMNT Bebop? I think The Rhino has been established to be a lot stronger, so I'll go with him. Sleepwalker needs a movie, yeah. Black Knight is nobody... Black Knight's not that interesting, but maybe he could be. If you were the editor of an anthology comic, what would be the genre, and who would you like to contribute? It's a good question. I would say that anthologies, for whatever reason, tend to be a tough sell here in America, but I do think that they can be done very well. So I'd probably go with horror. I think that people are more, especially horror fans, they're more willing to try out a bunch of short stories with cool twists in horror, and horror has had some success in the anthology format all around. Books, comics, movies. So probably if I was going to manage a an anthology, if I was going to manage an anthology, and I could choose the genre, I would choose horror. Also, I just like horror. And sometimes, honestly, like a short story is the better way to go with comics for horror, just because it can be very hard to do extended riffs on horror because you get more and more familiar with the characters and it doesn't come out as quickly, so it's like you have more time to get used to that sort of world and its rules, etc. Whereas an initial shock or twist or creepy story can sometimes carry more weight when it's shorter. Horror is one of the few things I can write. Hey Chris, you said you'd like to work on the X-Men. I'm curious, who's your favorite one and why? My favorite? Well, I do love Wolverine, but my favorite might be like one of the more traditionally noble classic characters. I really love Nightcrawler, Colossus, Kitty Pryde, and Cyclops. I've got a lot of them. Leonardo looks like he's doing a flying spin kick. I would say that he's more just like sort of leaping this way, and Donatello sort of jumped to the side. Maybe Donatello's actually rotating around like this. But yeah. I like it when the X-Men are a little more proactive. They don't necessarily have to be complete X-Force level proactive, but I like it when the X-Men are acting like superheroes to try to set an example and better their world as compared to just hanging out at home and getting attacked by somebody evil or investigating what some horrible mutant has done. I do like it when the X-Men just go out there and sort of patrol or stop stop some sort of a problem. And I feel like they shouldn't always have to stop mutant problems. They're just trying to make the world better for everyone. I've always thought that, like, actually, I had an idea for an X-Men sort of run that Rick Remender, to a degree, hit. I always thought it would make sense for the X-Men to take on one or two, not too many, but like one or two regular non-mutant superheroes. I was like, well, what if like the X-Men just took on, Darkhawk or something like that? They would, and I just thought that like idea of unity would work really well. But then Rick Remender sort of hit that with the Avengers Unity idea. So I like that. Young Beast right before he graduates, says Smirch Tatter. Sure. Favorite X-Men villain? Mine is Arcade. Favorite villain? Well, I think Magneto tends to work the best when he's done well, and Apocalypse is too ridiculously overpowered, so he's one of my least favorite. I liked I like Sabretooth because of his viciousness. Trying to think of like X-Men villains. I don't know. I guess the Sentinels. Anybody like sort of like, especially like a human running Sentinels. I kind of like that. That works really well for me. I don't know that right now I'd want to take away Magneto sort of being a hero. I feel like that has been earned over time, and I wouldn't necessarily just want to like reboot and reset things. I'm just saying that he's worked very well as a villain. Um, he's understandable. He's charismatic. He's powerful. There's a lot to like about him. Shadow King. Shadow King can be interesting. Mojo. The Reavers. I do like the Reavers. I like. Oh, you know what? I like the Hellfire Club. I like an organized Hellfire Club. Like these mutants who have decided that, like, well, yeah, I guess it's tough for some mutants out there, but some of us just have incredibly powerful gifts, and we're gonna live like kings and kind of screw everybody else. We don't care about anybody else's problems. I kind of like that sort of selfishness. I think that that makes for interesting villains. Definitely Sebastian Shaw, Mastermind, Celine, and to a degree, Emma Frost have all been really cool Hellfire Club members. The Hellfire Club can be very cool. Are you a Thunder Agents fan? No, I don't think I don't think I know a whole lot about the Thunder Agents, I'm afraid. X-Men really do have one of the richest histories and back catalogs of rogues, villains, and comics. The Hellfire Club stories from the 80s, Savage Land story arc. Has anybody heard of the Phoenix Saga? No, not too many people have heard of the Dark Phoenix Saga. It's pretty obscure trivia that we've got there. No, but yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of good X-Men stories out there for sure. Thanks for bearing with me sometimes when I'm just sort of actually working on the illustration and getting a little quiet. Uh, Not the ideal way I want to host. Just can't really figure out how to always balance talk versus actually needing to get a certain piece of work done that I really need to concentrate on. That's why I'm always sort of hoping for like a story that I can tell. Like if I can think of a story, I can keep talking while I'm working. But if I'm answering Q&As, that involves a little more thought. Someday I'll have done this enough that I can handle it a little more seamlessly. I hope. I have an interesting question. Going to like various conventions and stuff, have you ever seen a cosplay thing in person that has stuck with you because it was so well done? or at least an amazing idea. I'm trying to think if anything has ever sort of stuck with me as exceptionally well done. I'm a little stumped off the top of my head, but I feel like I should think of something. MG3, Metal Gear 3 guy dressed as the sniper. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes, two hot chicks that were the perfect examples of Enchantress and Lady Sif. Oh, okay. Little Monk says, who is one of your favorite, most inspirational comic artists or artists in general? Side question, who is your favorite Spider-Man artists? Well, I'll say, first of all, we'll say Mike Mignola for, like, one of my favorite artists, since that's the first question you asked. And favorite X-Men artists definitely include Steve Ditko. Have a lot of respect for Romita Sr. I really like Romita Jr. Mike Zeck is way up there. Is there anybody else that I would... Sarah Pacelli, she's fantastic. Oh, there've been a lot of fantastic artists. Oh, Eric Larson. I really love Eric Larson, I have to admit. As though that's like shameful or something. I just phrased that one awkwardly. Believe it or not, I like this really great artist named Eric Larson. Believe it or not. Mark Silvestri, huh? Yeah, Silvestri's work on Spider-Man was definitely his early career, and I like more where he ended up evolving than where he sort of started there. But yeah, can respect that. He is a talented artist. Are there any chain toy stores left now that what's it called? Toys R Us went out of business in the United States. I know that they're still around in, like, Canada and parts of Europe and Asia, but I'm wondering if there's anything still, like, I don't think that there are any chain toy stores like left in America, right? Tell me if I'm forgetting one. The Avengers had a character named Graviton. What's this about? U.S. Toys? Is that a real thing? Never heard of U.S. Toys. People are talking about some of their least favorite X-Men stuff, I think. That's fair. Boy, I'd barely know where to start on that. That's not an easy one. Scent says, or Scrent. Scrent, yes. Great episode on Archie horror. I don't think Archie Comics was published here until recently, so everything was pretty much new info for me. Oh, where are you, Scrent? Where are you? Yeah, FAO Schwartz, there's only one. Yeah, I don't think that there's a lot of those. Would you work for minimum wage for a comic book company if after 2 years a real job was yours to have? Well, sure. Who wouldn't do that, right? That's not a huge commitment, I don't think, to have your dream job. I'd say if you're, in fact, like, if you're not willing to do that, like, maybe you're not that passionate about comics, so think about that. Anyway. Have you read the Marvel NGen comic book, the NYCC exclusive? No, McCoy Greco. I've seen the few pages that IGN, no, not IGN, IO9 reviewed when it came out. I would really love to see the whole comic. I would love to give that a review. I wish I had picked it up when I was there at the convention. I didn't really know about it. Otherwise, I would have tried to find it. I would really love if anybody sends that for like my current, crappy comic contest. That's gonna be a tough one to beat. Is all I'm saying. That'd be a tough one to beat. Because I would really love to review it. Oh, favorite old school arcade games. I'm a Dig Dug fiend. The one that I really loved as a kid was the original Pitfall. I was a big fan of Pitfall. And the fun thing about Activision games back in the Atari 2600 days was if you beat a certain score and took a picture that came out, remember that back in the day you had to like wait until your pictures were returned from the developer to see if they came out. But if you beat a certain score and you sent photographic proof of you standing next to your TV, which, by the way, was tough because the TV would usually wash you out or the TV would be completely white. It was really hard, anyway, to get a good picture. But if you could, and you just simply sent that to Activision, they would send you back a iron-on patch for, like, your members-only windbreaker. And anyway, Pitfall was a game I loved as a kid, and I did get that high score, and a picture did turn out, and I wore that patch with pride. I wish I still had it. I'm sure plenty of people did, but I was so proud of that stupid thing. Yeah, I was quite fond of Pitfall Harry back in the day. That first game, it meant a lot to me. Funny to think back and remember all that stress of like hoping that the photo was going to turn out. My mom took like 7 or 8 pictures and one of them came out. I was so excited. Hadn't thought about that in forever, but somebody asked about classic video games, and it's all sort of flooding back to me, like just how much fun I used to have playing that game. I don't think I'd have as much fun playing it now, to be honest. I don't think I'd be like, what do you call it, like a pro gamer or anything like that, setting a world record. I just liked it. That's all. I just really liked it. And I was really proud of that patch. I don't think I ever got a patch for any other game, and I think there was one other. There was one other like Activision game that I know I scored enough on. I can't be sure of exactly what it was, but I don't think the photos ever turned out. It might have been called Keystone Cops. If that had sort of a purplish cover, that might have been it, but I can't quite remember anymore. It's just been too long. Do you remember the incomplete Sword Quest game series that came with the comics? I don't really. I don't. Connor Wood says, go to eBay to get the Activision patch. Yeah, Pitfall Explorers Club. Keystone Capers? Maybe the Keystone Capers was the one that I got the score, but I definitely never had the... I don't think, anyway, that I had the photo, because I don't remember having a second patch. The one I had was the... it was like a triangle, and it's Pitfall Harry, like, just swinging on a vine over a pit, if I remember it correctly. I remember it being mostly green. I hope I'm remembering it correctly. That's how it seems in my imagination right now. It'd be quite disturbing to realize I'm not remembering any of this correctly at all. But yeah, that was something nice that Activision did to sort of engage its community. You could call that like very early community engagement. These days, everybody has, you know, a social media presence and, you know, a way to like be on email lists and things like that. But back then, that was pretty different to sort of have any sort of way to reward people for engaging in your product. It was very unique. Anyway. I had Pitfall 2 for ColecoVision. Fave 2600 is Gravatar. Get the patch as a tattoo. Yeah, right? Let's see. Connor, I think, is telling me that the patch would now be $70. Is that right? Yeah. Little Monk says, do you prefer high school, college Spider-Man, or the older Daily Bugle photographer, scientist Spider-Man? That's an interesting question. Which do you prefer? Anybody out there have a preference they want to elaborate on? I'm thinking about it. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. I'm leaning towards sort of original recipe, young Peter Parker. That's just like when the one I'm most familiar with, and I like his supporting cast quite a bit. But I did actually enjoy the more recent Dan Slott run when he was in charge of Parker Industries, like, and he was pretty wealthy. I thought that was an interesting take on things. I liked that. I like Spidey in his 30s when he's having issues with MJ while she does her acting thing. Okay, yeah, that's fair. I like older, experienced Spider-Man. Somebody out there hates Miles. I love Miles. Miles is cool. I love Miles. Best Spider-Man is Electric Company Spider-Man. Yeah. coming up on being able to finish this up, which is a good feeling. I don't know if I love every decision I've made along the way, but mostly I think this is fairly fun, and I always have a good time drawing the Ninja Turtles. Let me erase a little bit of this pencil, and then I think I'm going to throw down more grays. I was doing that earlier to add some definition, see what it looked like, and I want to do some more so that it's got some context to it. Plus, I actually don't even feel bad about like coloring this one in just sort of grays, because to me, the first thing I still think of when I think of Ninja Turtles is those original black and white comics by Mirage Studios that I used to get back in the day. Spider-Ham is good. Chunga Leopardon! Leopardon, yes. Yes. Anyone else do Inktober? Asks J. Andrew World. What did you draw, and where can we see it? I think that's a fantastic question. Does anyone have a good answer? If you've been illustrating, or if you illustrated something today, or at least one of the days in Inktober, speak up. A lot of us would be very interested in knowing what other people are drawing. Big part of Inktober is trying to sort of have that community aspect, you know, like, hey, we're all in this together. We're all drawing. You know, are we all happy with how it came out? No, probably not. But hey, at least we're all trying. At least we're all trying to improve, right? Oh, I've got another question, like, after that. Like, I'll give folks a minute to answer if they've done anything for Inktober. That looks finished, Chris. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's a little, like, weird in a couple areas where I just need to work on the line weights. There's a couple areas that have slightly awkward line weights to them. But it's getting there. Pitfall was the one with the alligators and quicksand, right? Correct. Media on Display said, I drew some stuff, but I got a very particular style I'm trying to work on, kind of like Jamie Hewlett's Tank Girl. Jamie Hewlett's great. Just seeing if anybody else listed what they maybe had drawn. So I thought of something kind of semi-time sensitive. Has anyone out there gone to like a haunted house or a haunted hayride type thing yet this year? We're in October. I'd just love to hear if you did anything like that. I'm a big fan of horror, and I'd love to hear if you did anything along those lines. Turtles are really cute. Nice work. Aw. Thank you. They are pretty cute designs, aren't they? I feel bad. I'm not in love with the current Nickelodeon new show, but I'm, you know, I don't have TV, so I only saw the first episode on like they put it on YouTube or something. I'd definitely give it another try. I want to be sure, and I doubt I'd hate it because I just like the turtles so much. So I doubt I'd hate it. It's just didn't speak to me on any sort of meaningful level, but you never know. Take another look in the chat in a sec. Thanks for bearing with me. Here's a hypothetical. Did anyone go on a haunted hayride or anything? No, I guess not. Come on, folks. Go to more haunted hayrides. What's wrong with y'all? Oh shoot, I'm forgetting what I was about to ask. Damn, I can't remember what I was about to ask. That's frustrating. No haunted hayrides in Reading, so I can't go on them. It's not Halloween yet. In Australia, we barely recognize Halloween. Aw. I love Halloween. I love it. Oh, man. That would bum me out not to be able to sort of do anything for Halloween. I mean, as an adult, I guess I really don't. It's not like I dress up anymore or anything, but theoretically, you could still have friends throw an adult Halloween party and stuff so that you have an excuse to dress up. And I like giving out candy and sort of decorating the house, carving a pumpkin. I really enjoy those sort of traditions quite a bit. So just throwing down a little bit of gray here and there to try to give this guy just a little bit of the depth that I'm looking for, and see how that all goes. can't believe nobody else is that into Halloween. Anybody out there at least like horror? Now I feel like I'm almost asking, like, please, is somebody else out there into horror? Please. Just giving the lightest gray possible to the Ninja Turtles green skin areas, so that hopefully that gives them a slight amount of contrast against all their various sort of gear and weaponry, I hope. Here's a question. What's your favorite Stanley Kubrick movie, and what's your favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie? Go. Oh, cool. Good luck. I hope you enjoy the Afterlife with Archie comics, Sheldon. Yeah, the only frustrating part is just the fact that, you know, it doesn't resolve itself completely yet. Like, you definitely sort of see where they're going, and I think it looks like maybe they'd have like 2 more issues probably to wrap things up, but those 2 issues are like, over 2 years late at this point. So that's the one frustrating thing that I definitely tried to point out, but that said, like, I think that it's some pretty good comics. I think it's some great artwork no matter what, and some pretty interesting ideas that are explored. So you still get something out of each of the individual issues, in my opinion. Of course, that's just my opinion, and your mileage may vary. That was basically just to potentially get J. Andrew World drunk, because I know he's turning that into a little bit of a game whenever I say my catchphrases. But, until he's drunk, keep reading comics. I'm not signing off quite yet. Wubba lubba dub dub! Somebody actually answered some of my questions. Let's see. Shining, okay. The Birds. Let's see. Full Metal Jacket and Psycho. The Shining and Rear Window. Barry Lyndon and Psycho. I like this. The Birds. Clockwork Orange. Don't have a favorite Hitchcock. Okay. Shining. Rear Window. Doctor Strangelove. The Killing. Yeah, the only sequel to any of the Psycho movies that had anything to do with like the original creative team was Showtime made a sequel. It was called Psycho 4 sometimes, but it really ignores Psycho 2 and 3 and just is like a. It's by the same screenwriter as the original Psycho. It's an interesting idea. It's not bad, but it's not great either. Let's see. Since I brought it up, I'm just gonna think this through real quick, and I think that my favorite Kubrick is it's probably The Shining, but 2001 is very close. And then for Hitchcock, I would say Vertigo is my favorite, and Rear Window is second favorite. Somebody else, a few people saying Barry Lyndon, and you know the great thing about Barry Lyndon is not the story, but visually it's a masterpiece. Just amazing what he did there. Like every single shot literally looks like some sort of a Renaissance painting. It's amazing, and all natural lighting. All natural lighting. Hello, Miles Durkee. Thanks for joining us. The lady vanishes. Oh, I'll keep an eye out for that, Cookie Madison. Thanks. The Killing, sure. Rear Window, gorgeous. Yep. Favorite Scorsese now that we're on film. So that's totally fair, Connor. One of my other things that I love, folks, is movies. I love movies. I love comic books, but I love movies. And I think that, like, in a way that my loves are related because I'm really into storytelling. Favorite Scorsese? I'm thinking. I'm thinking. Might be. Wait, he did Goodfellas, right? Yeah, Goodfellas. Goodfellas and Taxi Driver's probably second favorite. I also do really like I like a lot of his recent stuff that he did with like Leonardo, like The Aviator and what was the remake of Infernal Affairs that was made here in America. I still think of it as Infernal Affairs. King of Comedy, yeah, King of Comedy. Um, what was the one with Leonardo and Matt Damon that I'm not thinking of, and Jack Nicholson? The Departed. The Departed. Thank you. Couldn't think of The Departed. I definitely saw the original Hong Kong movies first, Infernal Affairs, and that name stayed locked in my head even once I saw The Departed. And The Departed makes some, interesting changes, and it really works as a more American movie. Um, Infernal Affairs is still worth a watch, I would say. Casino, yeah, I was thinking of that one too, Media on Display. That was definitely like a movie that I was considering mentioning as one of my favorites. Quite good, quite good. Let's see. I feel like these guys still need a little bit more, that there's certain areas that just can't stay white, so I'm going to sort of color in their leather pads and leather belts and stuff with a number 3 warm gray. What's another really great acclaimed director who's made, just almost nothing but good movies? One that like most people will like not argue. They'll say, "Sure, great director." What's another great director? Tarantino. Let's go with Tarantino. Some people are like, it's not for them, but I think overall, Quentin Tarantino is very consistent, and I think he's quite good. I really do like his stuff, and I'm trying to think of which one. I think probably Inglorious Bastards is my favorite Tarantino film, because it's doing multiple things and multiple things well. I think that's my personal favorite, but that's not an easy choice. Tarantino's made a lot of really good, tense, and exciting films. Yeah, I think that looks a little better, having that little bit of color. Pulp Fiction's still my favorite. Yeah, Christopher Nolan we could use. A lot of people saying Django. Kill Bill. Kill Bill movie. Hateful Eight missed the mark for you? I still liked Hateful Eight quite a bit. Inglourious Bastards, Kill Bill Volume 1, or Reservoir Dogs. Yeah, True Romance. I love True Romance. Not quite a Tarantino movie, but as close as you can get without him directing it, in my opinion, because of course he did write it, and it does feel a lot of the time like one of his movies. Yeah, I like True Romance quite a bit. It definitely doesn't hurt that it's just really well cast. Like, even the smallest roles have like really interesting actors in them. Jackie Brown, fair, fair. Shape of Water, yeah, that was Guillermo. Yeah, that was Guillermo del Toro. Um, what about let's let's sort of stay with like modern directors, and I think a lot of people could argue that like this director has had slightly more mainstream, but he's still an auteur. Um, Christopher Nolan, a lot of great movies. What's your favorite? Um, I think I would ultimately choose Dark Knight as my personal favorite, but I also really enjoyed The Prestige and Insomnia and Dunkirk, um, Inception. He's made a lot of movies that I've really enjoyed. All right, people are saying, forget all this foreplay. Let's just go. Ow! I just pinched myself by putting the cap on here. Uh, best director of all time. Wow, best director of all time. I think I'd personally say Kubrick. Kubrick would be my personal favorite. Um, because every single one of his movies is you learn something about him. Um, anyway, yeah, it wouldn't be an easy choice, but I do think that that's who I'd go with. Kubrick, Gene Wilder, yeah, Hitchcock, Edgar Wright, Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang's a great choice. George Romero. Hey, personal taste count. It can trump everything else, but yeah, for me, not everything Romero did was that great. Um, but he did do a lot of movies that I love, so definitely no hate there. Scorsese. Uwe Boll. Yeah, sure. Django Fett nailed it. Why didn't we all just think of Uwe Boll? Fritz is on par with Méliès when it comes to film impact. Well, that's probably true. George Méliès and Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang did a lot. Fritz Lang did a lot. Not just Metropolis, but M. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are pretty smart cookies. You've got some interesting picks here. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for bearing with me as I just sort of hijacked everything about this evening to talk film. But I don't know. Have you ever met somebody that's just like, oh, I don't care for movies? I feel like I've never really encountered that. Like, obviously, some people are much more well versed in cinema, but I don't think I've ever met somebody that's just like, no, movies don't do anything for me. I don't watch them. I'd have a hard time believing someone like that really exists, I think. I loved Phantom Thread too, Balthus. I like most P.T. Anderson films. I can't say I like everything. What was the one like that was basically a thin allegory for Scientology? Something like The Master. That one I felt was kind of boring. I couldn't really get into that one. Clint Eastwood, Every Which Way But Loose, and Any Which Way You Can. Spielberg, Kubrick, Hitchcock, Ford, none of them ever had to direct an orangutan. There you go. Problem solved. Answer. Phantom Thread, I've seen all the other, I adore them. Yeah. Miles Durkee says, my father will not sit through a movie. I enjoy a slow movie sometimes. I just make that commitment. It can be harder sometimes at home, but I like making that commitment and just saying like I'm ignoring the rest of what's going on in the world, and I'm going to get in. I'm allowing myself to just get engrossed in the story. I like that. I like that quite a bit. I find that relaxing. And I like to try to find, like the universal truths that film can tell. Like, when it works, that means it's telling us something about the human condition. I think there's something that we can relate to, that like a bunch of people can relate to, if not everyone. So, all right, I think that'll probably do it for this guy. I'll move it up a little here so that you can see it just a little bit better. So there I go, sort of cartoony-ish. A little more cartoony than I maybe usually draw, but I think if you like dig down into the details, like where I just sort of like didn't add too much in terms of shading, but I think yeah, it's still me, and that'll do it. That'll do it for Drain. Let's see. Before I leave y'all, I'll check out what tomorrow's prompt is. And just a reminder, I will be on much earlier tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like I don't know, maybe like 10 a.m. Pacific, somewhere in that vicinity. Okay, expensive. Expensive is the prompt for tomorrow. Expensive. So all sorts of stuff can be expensive. Are you planning on coloring it in full Technicolor? No, probably not going to put any additional color. I think that this is how I'm going to do it. I've been having a lot of fun on a bunch of these live streams using grays, just grays. Very fun. Yep, I'm going to draw Paris Hilton's perfume. Perfect. Done. Emma Frost diamond form. C. Kim's wife's boob job. I might need reference images. I'm kidding. That's so pervy. Scrooge McDuck. That's fun. Movies, VistaVision, Scrooge McDuck. Yeah, I don't think I'd. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to tackle something that cartoony. Um, yeah, that's an interesting idea though. Scrooge McDuck. I like it. Batman. Sure, Batman's pretty rich. Iron Man. Any sort of like rich. Yeah, Emma Frost in diamond form is expensive. She's so bougie. That Emma Frost. Um, but this was fun. This is a good one. I am pretty exhausted. Hopefully that didn't show through tonight as much as others. Tom Waits, Action Comics #1. Yeah, I'll just draw Action Comics #1. Um, Power Man's $200. Where's my money, honey? Where's my money, honey? But anyway, thanks all for the suggestions. Yep, Joker burning cash. That's not a bad idea. That's kind of fun. A lot of good suggestions. You guys are very creative. I hope more of you will like do some artwork and plug it and stuff. Like I want to see what other people are drawing. I really do. You'll get no harsh judgments from me anyway. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. You know what? I say that, but I'm realizing a small flaw in my own piece. I never finished coloring Leonardo's bandolier strap here, so I'm just filling that in to give myself a little peace of mind. There, that's a little better. And then I never quite redarkened this one area to show that there's some sort of tension and depth there. The leather's stretching a little. All right, now I feel better. All right, folks, I'm taking off, but definitely remember to keep reading comics. Bye.